A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. Animals, whom we have made our slaves, we do not like to consider our equal. The love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. A scientific man ought to have no wishes, no affections, a mere heart of stone. I am not apt to follow blindly the lead of other men. Intelligence is based on how efficient a species became at doing the things they need to survive. Blushing is the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. I love fools' experiments. I am always making them. If the misery of our poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. The survival of preservation of certain favored words in the struggle for existence is natural selection. Man tends to increase at a greater rate than his means of subsistence. Man selects only for his own good, nature only for that of the being which she tends. We stopped looking for monsters under our bed when we realized that they were inside us. Man is descended from a hairy-tailed quadruped, probably arboreal in its habits. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. I am turned into a sort of machine for observing facts and grinding out conclusions. How paramount the future is to the present when one is surrounded by children. It is a cursed evil to any man to become as absorbed in any subject as I am in mine. A man's friendships are one of the best measures of his worth. Man tends to increase at a greater rate than his means of subsistence. The very essence of instinct is that it's followed independently of reason. I have called this principle, by which each slight variation, if useful, is preserved, by the term of natural selection. I have tried lately to read Shakespeare, and found it so intolerably dull that it nauseated me. The love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. It is always advisable to perceive clearly our ignorance. Wherever the European had trod, death seemed to pursue the aboriginal. He who understands baboons would do more towards metaphysics than Locke. Only picture to yourself a nice soft wife on a sofa with good fire, and books and music. We will now discuss in a little more detail the struggle for existence. Such simple instincts as bees making a beehive could be sufficient to overthrow my whole theory. Light will be thrown on the origin of man and his history.